Is there an acknowledgement now amongst the West that Ukraine is lost?
Not that it is lost. No, I don't think there's an acknowledgement. There is an acknowledgement that there is a, at least in some quarters, that it's going badly, that it's going very badly, and that Pokrovsk is going to be lost, and that is, again, um, again, if you search a bit, if you read some of these articles to the end, you'll see an awareness that that the trend is pretty grim for Ukraine, but the narrative hasn't fundamentally changed. It should, but there's still this happy talk and this certainty that we just, as long as it takes, and we just got to stick with them, and the Russians are suffering horrific losses. None of that talk remains. And so I think, like, the average person, the average consumer of news who is just goes to mainstream sources would think, okay, yeah, it looks like they're going to lose this battle and they made a mistake here. But even so, like, the Russians, they've been trying to take the city for a year and a half, and they've, 100,000 other guys have been killed. And the Russians are really on the verge of collapse. You still have that. That's not gone, and I think that's essentially the narrative. And I don't think that narrative is going to change until there is a true collapse on a good part of the Ukrainian lines. Now, we are seeing something like a collapse down in the Zaporozhye region right now, but that's not receiving much attention.
You think that it would start to break through in Western media more, because there have been some incidents. I don't know if you heard about Angelina Jolie. She's been the support of Ukraine.
Right.
She went there, and her bodyguard was forced conscripted, was just taken.
Right.
And she had to pay what, like 10,000 or 100,000 or something to get her own bodyguard out. And then I read in an article by somebody that was it The Guardian or The Sun?
I think The Sun.
The Sun. I think I shared it with you. Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting because his interpreter was just nabbed, pulled out of the car and taken, and he wasn't able to get him back, and he just had to say, "I'm sorry." You try to find him, talk to him, said he's off to the front now. Bang, bang, bang. That's what he told him. And it's like, you are here advocating for this war, and you see what's happening to these people, men, friends of yours, people that aren't supposed to be, that shouldn't be taken on into the front. That just is proof of how desperate the situation is. And yet you're still advocating the war, because in that Sun article, he was just saying, like, oh, it's just so horrible, but that just means we need to help. And here, if you're a foreigner, sign up and enlist and fight. Like, what? That's what you drew from this? That, hey, maybe that we need to end this war, that maybe these people don't want to fight, and that's why they're pulling your interpreter, your bodyguard off of the street and sending them to die into this meat grinder. Does that not penetrate their thick skulls?
Yeah, you'd think it would. And you would hope that some of the readers would stop and say, wait a second here. They may have heard some rumors about this, but they're always assured, that was just Russian misinformation or disinformation. But yeah, it's for real. I mean, that's and these two incidents really have brought that fact to light.
Right. And you just think that these people, that they figured that they were safe because they were associated with the British press, with a Hollywood celebrity, and they're not even safe. Think about what it's like for a regular Ukrainian man that is just afraid for their life, that won't leave their basement.
For some reason, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay.
Now I hear you again.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, just think about what it would be like as a Ukrainian man, afraid for your life, living in the basement. Some of them are cross-dressing, wearing wigs, just doing whatever it is, because, and we've seen so many of these videos. It's so horrible of them just of chasing people down, kicking them in the head while they're screaming, they're holding onto the doors, they're yanking them away.
Yeah.
And then, because they know what this means, they know what's happened. It's like, okay, we get there. We can hope, if we're lucky, we're able to desert. There's 21,000 deserters in October. We can get away if we don't get shot by our fellow, Ukrainian commanders, or we're going to get blown up by a fab bomb or a drone. It's just, what's your life? So you got like a 50-50 chance of surviving once they pull you off there. It's horrible.
Yeah, no, it is. There was Actually, a good article in the New York Times just a few days ago about a fishing village in southern Ukraine where there are just no men. There are actually, they'll tell you there are some men in this village, but they only come out at night, and the rest of the time, they're in basements or inside their houses with the curtains drawn. The vast majority have left. I think part of the reason is that they're close to the Romanian border, and they're fishermen. They have ways of getting across the river, so they're just gone, and there's just no men at all in this village. Again, that's just another little data point. But it's more than an anecdote. It tells you that what's happening in this country.
Yeah, it's such a nightmare. It's such a nightmare. And I can't believe that we're supporting it. And it's one of these things that if you say that that you don't believe that should keep on sending money and weapons to Ukraine, that somehow you're just a Putin supporter and you're just an evil person. It's just like,
right.
And think about what you're supporting right now. Think about what's happening in that country.
Right. Well, think about again, like where a lot of this money is going. That's one thing that this corruption scandal is going. You're sending money to these people that are forcibly conscripting, poor men, men without connections. The ones, it's well-known fact that if you got a lot of money, you can pay you can pay a bribe and you're fine. And okay, they won't touch you. But the vast majority, working class guys, fishermen or whatever, they don't have that money. They don't have those connections. They're the ones that are grabbed. And you have this very corrupt elite, at the top overseeing this system. One fact that came to light as a result of this recent scandal is that in Mindage's apartment, one of his apartments, there is a picture of a golden toilet or whatever, or a gold toilet. We don't know if that may or may not be true, but there was also said that they found $4 million in cash, and the cash was actually packaged in the way that the Federal Reserve packages the.
I was going to bring that up actually when you were talking about this, because I remember seeing it, and you see the stack of money. It says Federal Reserve Atlanta. I'm like, that's next to me, 3 hours away, Atlanta. Why is that money here?
I don't understand. I would think that they would transfer it electronically or something. Maybe they actually do send them the cash. I don't know. But anyway.
Probably both.
Probably both. So anyway, you're talking about as long as it takes and sending them in, the billions of dollars. Look, that's where clearly a significant fraction of that money just goes to gold toilets and things.
It's so frustrating. This is why so many Americans are upset, because, there's natural disasters several that happened here the past year or two, not far here, just in Appalachia, the flooding, all these homes destroyed, no help. My wife, one of her friends from college, she lost her house, her family, her house and cars in the Hawaii fires. Just everything completely wiped out, demolished. They gave $750 per family. This is what pisses people off so much. We're so in debt, and we have these crises here everywhere. Every American city is struggling, and there's just all this money that our politicians don't give a damn about what's happening here.
Right.
It's all about, we got to focus on Israel. We got to focus on Ukraine. We got to focus on Venezuela. Like, why? And at the end of the day, what it's all about is U.S. hegemony. That's what everything is about. And I think many people... before we started these conversations, Dad, I didn't even really understand the concept of multipolarity. It was a new concept and idea to me. And even U.S. hegemony, I just kind of just knew U.S. was number one. I didn't understand the empire. But, the rise of the multipolar world is a good thing. And I think the problem is the average American just feels like it's patriotic to say, like, I support my military and I support this. They don't understand that this is a battle between multipolarity and U.S. hegemony. And I don't know, maybe it's too much to get in this, but I don't want to say like we should be rooting for necessarily countries like Russia and China. I want to root for America, but I'm rooting for them in the sense that Russia and China are ushering in multipolarity is what it is. So it's just kind of, I think it's a tough thing for sometimes people to frame it in their mind, to try to think that I'm not a traitor. I'm not unpatriotic. No. I hate what our country is doing because it's destroying my country and destroying lives all around the world.
Right.
It's not good for us. And I think we got to work on that messaging. How do we explain that to people?
I think it's easy. That's actually an easy message to make. I think it's first of all, it's very firmly grounded in reality. It's just that, for whatever you want to say about Trump, and he just deserves all kinds of really excoriating criticism. There's no question about it. But the America First idea, didn't start with him, but it is actually a very powerful idea and can be used, and I think it resonates with people. It's a simple message that actually does make sense. It's not America First in the sense that, we need to go out and bomb other countries. It's America First. It says the needs of our citizens should come first. The duty of the government is to address those needs and to keep us out of wars, because again, it's the citizens that suffer. They're the ones that get sent abroad and get killed. I think people like Tucker Carlson have done an excellent job of making that case, and it clearly does resonate. Again, Trump has been this is to actually be very, very kind. He's been a very imperfect, leader of that movement. I think more than imperfect. He's really betrayed it. But somebody else may pick up the mantle and carry it forward.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. When we try to explain multipolarity, maybe don't even talk about it. Just it's easier to resonate with people. It's just that it's America First. That's an easy message to understand. And America First is a multipolar position.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's like, again, it's what Pat Buchanan said, a republic, not an empire. It's time to become a republic again, which is, in other words, go back to the original understanding is that we don't go, out and search of monsters to destroy. We should lead by example. If we're doing something right, the best thing to do is to work on doing that right, and other countries will see us and imitate us, but rather than trying to impose it on other countries.
Yeah, it's tough in the United States because the U.S. military is almost like a deity in this country. This idea of supporting our troops, supporting our military. If you don't do that, then somehow you're a traitor. And I think they use that, and it's very effective on many people that are, at their heart, true patriots. And I think the America First message does resonate with a lot of them, but they have difficulty, some cognitive dissonance when it comes to the military. It's like, well, we got to support our boys. We got to back them. And so no matter what happens, it's just like, yes, we support the troops. So how do you handle that? Because I have neighbors that are ex-Army and Navy, and they're nice people, but when it comes to this type of stuff, I feel uncomfortable almost because it's like, I don't support this.
Yeah, it's hard for somebody like me, or to a lesser extent you, but because my background is Berkeley, California, and the anti-war movement. That's kind of what I grew up with, and I don't think I do a very good job of talking to those people. But there are a lot of veterans, as I've mentioned, that actually have become very, very effective, anti-war advocates and advocates of multipolarity and of a correct understanding of America First. And of course, we know some of them out there, like Daniel Davis, we know them. I think those people are very effective because you see right away, you look at him, he's in uniform, you see his office. This guy he actually was a tank commander and whatever. Right. And I think those people can make the case very effectively. It's kind of, it's easy to write off somebody like me, they just don't want to listen to it. But, what you can say, it's like, I support the troops, but we have to make sure, their lives are on the line. So we have to make sure that they're actually in a just and necessary cause. Is this really what America needs? And it has to be America first. It can't be Israel first. Those are two different things. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but I think maybe they're starting to hear that.
Yeah, I'm kind of coming to the conclusion, though, if we want to support our military for a just and necessary cause, I can't think of any war that the U.S. has fought that I would say was absolutely just and necessary. That was really vital to the interest of the people living here in this country. Can you think of anything, any war?
Yeah, no, it's hard, because actually, again, we haven't had to worry about invasions, from Canada or Mexico. It's just, even if you go to World War II, again, I know you can make a good argument. That's, where at least one place where people can make a good argument that was a just and necessary war. But even there, it's not actually clear that we had to become involved. And there's some question about whether or not we may have laid a trap for the Japanese. That's a big, messy question. But, there at least I'll say, yeah, okay, you can make an argument. And I'll just accept it, just simplify things. But since then, I don't think we can. It's Korea. Well, I guess that proved to be a disaster. We lost 50,000 soldiers there, but the Koreans lost millions. And Vietnam was a disaster. It ended. Everything since then.
They're all disasters,
right?
And then we're just told that this was just such a great thing, and then that's why we're awesome. And it's just like none of it is true. And so it just, the military scares me in that sense, because I just don't. If we can say that maybe one time it was the right thing, possibly debatable, then it's like. The structure, how we build society and with the military needs to change. There needs to be something like enshrined in our Constitution to say that only when there's an invading force, make it that there's no wiggle room, that you can't get involved in these other wars. Like, okay, well, once the Canadians get so mad, they ran out of maple syrup, they're coming down. Okay, then that's the only time, something like this.
Right. I think the last time we did have a declaration of war was World War II. And there there was an attack on American soil. There's no question about it. It happened. So there is something, again, you can make a real case for war. And it was made properly constitutionally at that time. But since then, we haven't had a constitutional war, and we haven't had... you can say that we're responding to the attack on our soil in the case of 9/11, but Iraq had nothing to do with that. Even Afghanistan, it's not, it wasn't the Afghan government that went after us. It was Al-Qaeda was there, and they actually, if I remember correctly, the Taliban did not want to be attacked, and they were willing to hand them over, but we didn't. Again, we just wanted to go in and take over the whole government. We had that mess that 20 years, another $1 trillion and thousands of lives lost and nothing gained. It's been a series of disasters. Again, there should never be wars of choice. Let's put it that way. It's just like any war has to be, if you're going to fight it, it has to be an existential question about the security of your own nation. The future existence of your own nation is at stake. Otherwise, the thing is, you just can't go ask people, even if you think there's these are the good guys and those are the bad guys, and we have to be on the side of the good guys or whatever. You can't ask your own people to go out there and die for that. It just, in the end, it won't work. And the other side, it will be existential because you're over there. It's their territory. And so that's what happened in Vietnam, for example. It said, okay, we did a tremendous amount of damage. And if we really had committed to it, decided it was existential, we could have won because we just have this overwhelming military might. But it wasn't existential for us. So after 55,000 or so American soldiers died, we said, let's get out of here. That's what's going to happen. And the Ho Chi Minh understood that. And that's what happens again and again. Afghanistan is another case. In the end, it's just like, this is really not our war. This was a war of choice. You shouldn't have done it. Never make a war of choice. If there's no choice, then, it's only when there's no choice, when you see okay, again, the future, if we don't do this, then our own future, is in doubt.
Well, I guess Trump feels like he has no choice because he's in the Epstein files. So I guess we got to go to war.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what
Venezuela is just is just the most absurd kind of example of that. It's obviously nobody's just completely invented,
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to feel. I think a lot of Americans are kind of lost with their identity and just their country and just what to do. It's just, everything's just so gross now and just so broken and falling apart. And I'm really worried about the future of this country. and on so many different levels. I mean, we have all these wars. I mean, just the Epstein stuff, the Israel lobby, but the cost of living here. Talking about a 50-year mortgage. Now the average age when somebody buys a house now is almost 40 years old now. People aren't having kids, and just something I was talking with my buddy yesterday was, we work on building websites and things, with AI, and it's just crazy how good AI is getting. And I've been messing around, obviously the thumbnail images, I use AI. I know there's some people don't like the things I make on there, but I've been experimenting with like video. The amount of jobs that are going to be lost because of AI are huge. And who are going to be losing these jobs? It's really actually, it's not the blue collar jobs that are being replaced. It's all these people that are in college now, or just graduated from college, that took on $200,000 worth of debt, and now they have an unmarketable skill. It's completely being made redundant by AI, and so it's just, you're going to have millions of people that are just saddled with debt, that can't find a job, that can't buy a house. The cost of just food is tough enough. They're having to live with their parents. And, the jobs we did need are things that we didn't push our kids to be in. We told all of our kids, they told all of us, just go to school, take out the student loan, go into debt, and then you're going to be fine. And you're owed, you'll just be entitled to a decent paying job, and you'll be fine, and you can buy a house and raise a family. That's just not true. And for just this new generation, they're so screwed. And so just what's going to happen? There's going to be so many people. And then just in the backdrop, of course, it's like, oh, well, yeah, our president or our politicians are blackmailed by pedophiles. Everyone's bought off by AIPAC and Israel. We're going to go to war with Iran, where we're almost $40 trillion in debt. Interest rates are still high. It's just, the whole thing is just falling apart. There's going to be so much rage. And so what's going to happen in 5 years, 10 years? Like, even if we avoid war with Iran, avoid World War III with Russia, get out of Venezuela without it suffering. It's like, there's just this tidal wave of problems, that are just going to be hitting the United States, and just not just the United States, the whole Western world. And we're not prepared for it. And I'm really worried about what's going to happen.
Well, on that positive note, I think we should bring this to an end.
Okay. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No. I don't disagree with you. And I'll say just very briefly that, I was a translator, a freelance Chinese to English translator for roughly 35 years. And I saw AI, with the rise of AI, I saw the writing was on the wall. I think there would still be a role for me, but it would be greatly reduced. And I chose to retire because of that. Well, and I would say, okay, fortunately I had my 35 years, but yeah, I wouldn't advise anybody to go into translation now.
Right. No, it's hard to know what to do. Well, you're not retired now. Now you're a geopolitical analyst. So
okay.
Congrats on your new career, Dad.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We'll end it there, Dad.
All right.
Okay. Thanks a bunch. Have a good rest of your day and a great weekend. Bye-bye.